So finally we get to the week 5 wrap. I apologize for the issues with Blackboard over the past few days, but hopefully most of you will be able to attend to this prior to Thanksgiving, hopefully shortly thereafter, before we really start getting into week 6. So we did have 4 chapters this week, chapters 13 through 16, but 16 was focused primarily on pricing and is a fairly self-contained module. My discussion here is going to be to summarize some of the main issues in product and brand management. So let's go ahead and get started with that. In order to properly frame our discussion of product management, we must first classify products using the criteria shown on this slide. The broadest classification is between consumer products and business products. Our primary focus will be on consumer products. Business product management is covered in other courses offered in the MBA program. Consumer products can be classified as being either convenience products, shopping products, specialty products, or a special category of unsought products. Now, facilitating our understanding of the range of consumer products that are marketed, it's important that you recall our discussion about the concept of involvement when we discuss consumer behavior. Because as you'll see, across the variety of product types, one of the primary varying criteria is the involvement level that's used or that is present during that kind of a decision. So when we talk about convenience products, we're typically talking about low involvement decisions. These convenience products may include things like groceries, entertainment products, gasoline, things that are inexpensive typically, or at least they are routine purchases where not a lot of decision-making effort is used. Marketing strategies for convenience products tend to be focused on heavy branding, heavy use of and focus on brand awareness and peripheral cues, songs, music, jokes, things of that nature. The next type of product, the shopping product, steps up the level of involvement to represent what we call a limited decision-making model. And moderate involvement usually takes some effort to find, evaluate, and purchase these shopping products. Within this categorization of shopping products, there are 2 types of shopping products, homogeneous and heterogeneous. Homogeneous shopping products are products that consumers perceive to be basically similar. So, for example, washers, dryers, refrigerators, televisions. With homogeneous shopping products, consumers typically look for the lowest price brand that has the desired features. Heterogeneous shopping products are essentially different, again, in the perception of consumers. Furniture, clothing, housing, even say university programs would be considered heterogeneous products because consumers have trouble comparing heterogeneous shopping products because of the variance in prices, quality, and features. Because of this reason, for homogeneous shopping products, we would again typically say that lower involvement, peripheral cues, things of this nature, heavy branding would be involved in the marketing of homogeneous shopping products, whereas with heterogeneous shopping products, where specific attributes can be seen as different, we can focus on more cognitive types of persuasion, more attribute-based or benefit-based differentiation. Moving down the ladder now, specialty products are seen as specific high-involvement decisions, very often with a very specific brand sought. Marketers of specialty products often use selective, status-conscious advertising to maintain their product's exclusive image, and distribution is often limited to 1 or a very few outlets in a geographic area. In this case, of specialty products, brand names and quality of service are often very important. And finally, unsought products are products that the consumer is not aware of, products that may fill a need that the consumers are not aware of, or it may fill a need that the consumer is aware of, but the consumer is simply not aware that there is a solution to that particular problem. Best example of this would be when Apple introduced its iPhone. This was certainly an unsought product, as it was not, as a category of usable smartphone, was not something that consumers were aware of, and therefore required a very strong sales effort, a very heavy marketing expenditure at product launch to raise awareness, to make the product actually quite sought. In your career as a marketer, you may find yourself charged with managing products at a variety of different levels. The variance of products and product types that are offered by a particular marketing organization can be delineated across three different descriptive criteria. The first, we can talk about a marketer offering a product item, which would be a very specific a product within the entire range of the marketing organization's offerings. So the example given here, the Dodge Viper RT10 is a specific product item offered by Daimler Chrysler. A product line, on the other hand, would contain multiple product items, typically within one category. So for Daimler Chrysler, their product line may consist of Viper, Grand Caravan, Charger, Challenger, Dodge Stratus. There may be other Dodge brands as well, all within that product line. Going beyond that, a marketing organization may offer multiple lines which all combine to create that organization's product mix. So Daimler Chrysler, in addition to the cars listed above, the cars line listed above, they also have a line of trucks, they have a line of auto loans, they have a line of auto warranties, and so on and so forth. In the marketing vernacular, we would refer to the number of items within a product line as the depth of their product offerings, whereas we would say the number of lines that create the product mix refer to the width of its product offerings. This is best seen in this example of Campbell's product lines and mix, where you see they have multiple lines. Canned soups, microwave soups, gravies, meal kits, and tomato juices are all of the lines, and then you can see the depth of those lines containing the number of actual product items within each of those lines. So the width is the number of lines in the mix, and the depth is how many items within each of those lines. Marketers have available to them a variety of marketing strategies for managing these item, line, and mix strategies. Product modification would occur when a product, a singular product item, was modified itself, and this could result in placing the product in a different position relative to competing products. Doesn't move lines. It wouldn't change the nature of the product lines or mixes, but the product itself would be substantially changed. Repositioning, on the other hand, could come in the form of moving a product into a different line. So for example, if Chrysler wanted to reposition its line of its product item of the Dodge Grand Caravan minivan into a new line of work vehicles, they've defined that as a separate line, they could do so by making some product modifications and then also communicating with their target audience about a different use of the product, and perhaps different distribution and pricing strategies would go along with that, and that would be considered a repositioning of that particular product. We can also talk about line contraction and line extension, which obviously would involve adding more products to a product line or removing products from a product line. So you'll have noticed a couple of times already we've talked about products based on the consumer's perception of that product. That is, does a consumer perceive a product to be a shopping product? Do they perceive it to be a consumer product? Do they perceive it to be differentiated, that is homogeneous or heterogeneous? Well, this idea of consumer perception of products is actually the very underpinning of the idea of brands. To introduce the concept of brands, we certainly need to talk about the presence of things like brand names and brand marks, which are the identifiable features of a brand that simply are used to distinguish one brand from another. So when I go to the store, it's very easy for me to find the Coca-Cola or the Tide or the iPhones. Of course, the logos and symbols are also stimuli that are used as identification marks for that brand. But a brand goes far beyond that. Click on the link on this page, or click on the link in the description of the video if you're watching this on YouTube, and watch this short video about what a brand actually is. Now hopefully you've just finished watching that branding video, but allow me to supplement that with a few thoughts of my own. It's very important that we recognize that brands exist in the minds of the consumer only. Consumers are never wrong about their brand perceptions. Brands are not products. Products contribute to the strength of a brand, but they are very different things. Product management and brand management have very little in common. Product management is what we've been talking about so far, managing product lines, making changes to product items, and so on and so forth. Brand management is much more a marketing communications function, where we simply try to tie our product to some specific and usually intangible properties. I want people to believe that my brand is happy. I want people to believe that my brand is for the modern social demanding college student. That's what a brand is. And every individual has their own perception of various brands. Now you may have heard or you may have read in popular press in the past about things like brand loyalty and brand equity. Brand equity is a measurement of the value that a brand brings to a product, the added value that a brand gives to its associated products, and is generally seen because strong brands command higher prices and they encourage greater purchase frequency. Now, a lot of this brand equity stems out of a brand's loyalty. So when a consumer has an evoked set of one, an evoked set, recalling the consumer behavior chapter, is the set of brands that a person actively considers when making a decision within a product category. In a situation where that consumer has an evoked set of one, or they only have one brand where they consider, that is considered brand loyalty. This is why higher prices are easy to command, because people aren't comparing. I am loyal to Coca-Cola when it comes to cola drinks. I will not, generally speaking, buy Pepsi unless I'm forced to. When I want a soda, when I want a cola, I have an evoked set of one. Give me a Coke, please. So these things combined are what create this thing called brand value. And brand value, more and more, is recognized as an actual tangible asset on many companies' balance sheets. Click on the link or on the slide or in the description of the YouTube video for a brief video about brand value. So with the importance of brands, it's very important to also understand brand management right along the side of product management, again keeping these ideas linked but separate. We can talk about two broad categories of brands, manufacturers' brands versus private brands, and each type will offer its own marketing challenges. For manufacturers' brands, we can talk about individual brands, which is essentially like a product item. We can talk about family brands. So Coca-Cola is a family brand which comprises multiple individual brands. Coca-Cola Classic, Diet Coke, Cherry Coke, caffeine-free Diet Coke, and so on and so forth. Sometimes we can talk about a combination approach as well when we support a family brand along the strength of an individual brand. And in fact, in the example of Coca-Cola, it's exactly how that brand was developed, on the strength of one individual brand's product. On the other hand, a private brand is a brand that is offered by and marketed by the actual retailer. So with the manufacturer, the distribution strategy is simply different. With the private brands, we can also talk about individual brands or family brands or some combination thereof. So an example, private brand, most of your mainstream large retailers carry a variety of private brands. Best Buy carries the Insignia line of consumer electronics. Schnucks carries the line of, well, I believe their private brand actually is just Schnucks, so you can get Schnucks Toasted Oats instead of the manufacturer's well-known brand. It used to be that the private brands were what we referred to as generic products, but generic products are actually products that literally have no brand. Private brands do have a brand, and that brand is that as ascribed by the actual retailer. As you might expect, marketing strategies to approach manufacturer brands or private brands can be quite different. Again, with the manufacturer's brand, that brand carries the brand name of the manufacturer. With the private brand, it's the brand name that's owned by the wholesaler or the retailer. Manufacturers' brands will typically be marketed through heavy consumer ads by the manufacturers themselves. So Coca-Cola obviously takes the bulk of the advertising expenditures as opposed to the retailers doing that. Manufacturers' brands are a way for retailers to attract new customers. If a retailer carries a strong line of manufacturers' brands, that should be strong enough for consumers to be attracted to that retailer. Retailers can also use manufacturers' brands to enhance their own prestige. If Walmart suddenly stopped carrying the brands that are perceived as being low quality and started carrying only high quality brands, that would change the nature of people's evaluation of Walmart. Manufacturers' brands also can provide to retailers rapid delivery, which allows them to carry less inventory. If a dealer carries a poor quality brand, the customer may simply switch brands and remain loyal to the dealer. So it's important from the retailer perspective to carry multiple manufacturers' brands across a reasonable variety of brand quality levels to allow this easy switching. When marketing private brands, however, these retailer brands, they typically will earn higher profits on their own brand. Think about this. The retailer and the manufacturer, well, it's the same company. Therefore, the profit margin between both what would traditionally be distributed to two parties now goes towards only the private brand label, the retailer, resulting in higher profits and then typically lower prices. Because of the ability to offer lower prices, there's less pressure to engage in discounting behaviors, which can make pricing more stable and certainly more attractive to consumers. At the same time, if that private label brand earns a great deal of brand loyalty, then by definition that ties the consumer to your retailer. So if I'm a big fan of Insignia DVD players, then I can only get Insignia DVD players at Best Buy, therefore enhancing loyalty to the brand and to the retailer brand. And finally, in the case of manufacturer brands, the retailers have no control over the intensity of distribution of these manufacturers' brands. So when Walmart sells a Sony DVD player, they have no way of controlling or deciding who else is selling Sony DVD players and what marketing strategies are happening in the other retailers. Obviously, for private brands, the wholesalers and retailers have total control over that intensity, and that makes the marketing of these products a little bit more straightforward. An important part of where a product and brand come together is in the packaging. Now, packaging is a very important part of a product and a brand. we can talk about various elements of packaging, certain roles of the packaging. On the product side of things, we can talk about the packaging's ability to contain and protect the product. We can talk about facilitating storage use or making the product more convenient. We can also talk about the extent to which the packaging facilitates recycling. And all of that is very product-based. You can actually change the usefulness or the benefit provided by a product by simply changing its packaging. Think about things like toothpaste packaging. And with the traditional tube with the removable cap, offers one set of utility, but of changing that packaging so that the cap is a flip-top cap that does not get removed from the package, well, that's an added benefit. The product itself, the toothpaste, doesn't change, only the packaging changes, adding new benefits to that product. It's still a product-based decision. But you can also talk about the impact that packaging has on the branding, and that's the promotion aspect of what packaging does. Clearly, you want the packaging to be the messaging that's involved in the packaging to be consistent with all of the other branding activities. So using consistent colors, fonts, dynamic theming, things of this nature, all can contribute to the branding of the actual product. The next part of this lecture will focus on the idea of new product development, as opposed to existing product management, which is what the prior part of the lecture was about. With new product development, we're talking about strategies that are involved with the introduction of various types of new products. One of the primary concerns among marketers in the development and the launch of new products is this concept called the first mover advantage. The first mover advantage essentially states that the marketer who is first to market with a specific product or with a product that solves a particular need gains advantages through a variety of means, as you can see here. They have increased sales because of a longer sales life. The category won't get worn out as fast if you are the first to enter. The life of the category will be extended. This also allows for increased margins, increased product loyalty, more resale opportunities, greater market responsiveness, and of course a sustained leadership position. So being first to market is always one of the most crucial goals to have when talking about new product launching. Now, there are a variety of ways that you can get this first mover advantage. We can talk about the development of new-to-the-world products, inventing something brand new that's never been offered before, as Steve Jobs did with Apple and the iPhone. We can also talk about introducing new product lines, when Daimler Chrysler introduced their line of work vans to go alongside their consumer-oriented minivans. We can also talk about product line additions, when Daimler Chrysler added the Chrysler 200 to their line of consumer-oriented sedans. That was a product line addition. We can also talk about improvements or revisions. Now, in order to qualify a product improvement or revision as a new product, it obviously has to be quite substantial, and at the very least, marketers need to be able to talk about the new product as something that is very, very new. So, for example, sticking with the Apple example, when Apple introduces a brand new iOS, so when they go from iOS 7 to iOS 8, then they often talk about that as being a new product because it offers a lot of new features. The extent to which this is true is decided basically by the consumers. Do they actually see this as something new or not? As opposed to when Apple goes from iOS 7 to iOS 7.1. It's an acknowledgement that this is simply a small improvement to the product, but not substantial enough to be considered a brand new product. We can also talk about repositioned products. When we take an energy drink and reposition it from a study aid to an actual health product that is, say, for construction workers, truck drivers, things of that nature. We're changing it to a brand new position, a brand new set of benefits, a brand new set of reasons for purchasing that could be considered a new product, because often you'll be talking to a brand new audience. And we can also talk about lower priced products, again for some of the same reasons as repositioning. When we talk about lower priced products, we're often talking to a new, different target market with a new set of benefits and features to sell. Regardless of the type of new product we're talking about launching, the process for new product development generally follows this 6-stage process. It's beginning with idea generation, followed up with idea screening, business analysis to determine whether the ideas fit with the mission, development of the idea, test marketing the idea, and then finally commercialization of the new product. At any stage during this process, of course, the product may be killed if the new product idea does not meet certain criteria. The first stage of idea generation is fairly straightforward. We find new product ideas from a variety of sources, sometimes from our customers, from direct customer feedback when they say, gosh, I wish I had a product that would do X, Y, or Z. Or they would say that I love your product, but I wish it did this, that, or the other. New product ideas might also come from employees, and this could be any number employees at any place within your organization, marketing employees, engineering employees, even accountants. It could come from distributors, because distributors are often aware of what the retailers and consumers are demanding, and they can often be aware of what competitor firms are doing. Same thing with directly through vendors. We might get new product ideas from competitors by seeing what types of new products they've launched and are successful. While we're giving up the first mover advantage in that case, we certainly would be remiss if we weren't paying attention to the new products that competitors were offering. Certainly the traditional thought of new product development comes through things like R&D, research and development. So the engineers who are constantly looking for new products. Google is very famous for coming up with lots and lots of new product ideas through a dedicated effort towards research and development. And of course you can also hire outside consultants to identify new product ideas as well. But coming up with new product ideas is fairly easy. You can see this as sort of a brainstorming effort where any idea for a new product is welcome. But of course, in any brainstorming effort, at some point you do then have to screen the ideas. You have to throw out the ideas that are obviously no good and try to focus on ones that have potential. This is the idea of idea screening. This eliminates the ideas that are inconsistent with the organization's new product strategy, or they're inappropriate for some other reason. Perhaps we know right off the bat that it's inconsistent with our mission, that the resources simply aren't available, or that we're not in a competitive position to offer such a product. Once we have a set of filtered ideas, it's important then to make the business analysis for that particular idea. Is there sufficient demand? Can we manufacture this product at a cost that will result in a reasonable price? What will our sales potential be? And given that, will this be a profitable venture? While it's very natural for new product developers to think only about the product standpoint, there has to be a business case made. If there is a business case, the next step would be development. And product development would include creation of a prototype, would include developing a marketing strategy, developing the packaging, branding, and labeling of the product, setting the marketing mix variables, identifying manufacturing partners, and then attaining any governmental approvals if those are needed. Once this is done, many companies will engage in what's called test marketing, or the limited introduction of a product and a marketing program to determine the reactions of potential customers in a market situation. If the results of that test market are successful, the final stage is commercialization of the product, which of course includes production, inventory buildup, distribution, sales training, and advertising, both for the trade partners as well as to consumers. Now, of course, all of these things take time, and we certainly understand that as this process goes forward, many of the ideas that are generated, screened, analyzed, developed, and test marketed may never actually see the light of day. You can see the number of products that are actually make it to the commercialization stage is very, very small, especially relative to the number of new ideas. I make this point simply to point out that you have to be, if you are interested in a career in new product development, or if you are an entrepreneur, you have to be prepared for this reality. Most of your ideas will not see commercialization. Most of your ideas wouldn't survive the screening, business analysis, development, and test marketing stages. It's very important to realize that so that you understand failure is a big part of a successful new product development process. So why is this the case? Well, most of the time we can talk about the reasons shown on this slide about why new products fail. Many new products have no discernible benefits. It's a very common practice for example, when a product is developed out of research and development, when a product is created because of customer responses. They will often be developing products based on the premise of, well, this product works. I can make this. It is possible for me to make this product. But if there's no discernible benefits to the target audience that you're targeting, the product will certainly fail. If there's a poor match between the features and the customer desires, certainly the whole idea behind marketing is for products and services to be able to fulfill the needs of customers. If it fails to do that, it will fail to succeed. Often there's an overestimation of the market size. I believe that everybody's going to want this product that I've created, when as it turns out, actually nobody does. Incorrect positioning refers to the marketer saying that this is the best and easiest to use product on the market, when in reality it's not the easiest to use, even though maybe it is the most powerful. You've positioned it as something that it's not. It will not succeed that way. Pricing is often a detriment to new product success as well. And while the too high side of the product failure may seem obvious, too low pricing can also result in new products failing. This is usually in combination with incorrect positioning. If it is priced too low, it may communicate that the product is of low quality or is not worth the time for the consumer to get to learn about. Inadequate distribution as well. If you are unable to identify your distribution and retailing partners in order to move the product, then it simply won't be convenient for consumers to buy the product, causing the product to fail. And of course, we could talk about poor promotion as well. If nobody knows about your product, then how could it possibly succeed? And then of course, the product could just suck. If it's an inferior product to competing products, then it certainly does not have any reason to succeed. Some things that lead to successful product launches, though. Listening to customers, not just for product ideas, but to understand things like product feasibility, to understand the extent to which the product is satisfying needs, to understand what the expected price level and positioning would be. Obviously, producing the best product is the best way to find a successful product, but understanding the marketplace and understanding where that marketplace is going is just as important. That helps us produce the best product. Getting every aspect of the product right, from the actual product conception to its branding, to its packaging, to its pricing, to its distribution, everything does have to be right in order to make it successful. The best way to get every aspect right is to have strong leadership within that product development process. While it might seem obvious that a good product will stand on its own, that the engineers, that the inventors really have all the say in whether a product is successful or not, I think we've shown that a good product alone is not enough for it to be successful. So strong product and brand leadership is extremely important in the success of a new product. There must be also a commitment to new product development. As we've seen already, it takes a large number of new product ideas to come up with even just one successful one. Without a commitment to this process and following through with all of the steps, success in new product development will not be seen. Many marketing organizations approach new product development from a project-based team approach. That is, they will assign multiple teams made up of multidisciplinary staff in order to make sure that projects have the best chance for success. And as I've already pointed out, you have to go into this with the idea that most of your ideas will at some point actually fail. So the final concept that I want to share with you with regards to new product development is this theory of the diffusion of innovation. Now, as you can see in the chart that's shown here, the horizontal axis is essentially time. You'll notice that it marks the percentage of total adoptions by category, but essentially what this means is that the first 2.5% of the market that actually adopts the product, well, we call them the innovators. So these were the very first people to go out and buy the iPhone when it was released. Taking that out to about 16%, or adding the next 13.5% of the marketplace, well, these people would be considered the early adopters. And then the first half, up to 50%, would be considered, adds in the early majority. And you can see that it's at this point that the actual sales within this product category peak. Once the late majority of the marketplace has decided to adopt the product, so this would be me finally buying a Blu-ray player, and we see that that category has actually already begun to decline. And then finally, the last 16% people, the long-standing holdouts, oh, I'll never get a smartphone, are considered the laggards, and actually are seen at the very end part of the diffusion of that particular product category. Now, it's important to also understand that this is a very, very, very broad generalization, and we certainly see different shapes of these curves depending on the product category. The most important thing here, though, is that as a category or product manager, it's important to understand within your category what this curve actually does look like and where you are, where your product is in this stage. What is the adoption rate, and what's the nature of the consumers who are actively now adopting your product or beginning to use your new product. Certain product categories will have very short adoption curves. So, for example, if we're talking about anything in the technology sector, we would see a very short amount of time from the innovators to the laggards. Whereas when we're talking about, let's say, something like textbooks or washing machines, that has a very long trajectory from the innovators to the laggards, and we would even see sort of sustained sales even in the late majority and the laggard stages. So this is a broad generalization, a way for us to think about how new products are adopted within a marketplace. So as you can see, here's an example of that shows how the relationship between sales and profit during the 4 different stages of the product life cycle. We see in the introductory stage, we see sales obviously start at 0, and at that point profits are actually negative because of all of the product development costs that went into launching the product, and at 0 sales, profits are obviously negative. Profits actually don't become 0 until, by definition, the product has left the introductory stage and has entered the growth stage. And it's at this point where sales continue to increase, but profitability also increases and actually peaks. In the maturity stage, sales reach their peak and start to decline, where profits have already begun to decline. And then in the decline stage, those trends obviously continue. Again, the extent of this timeline can be impacted by many, many things, product category and marketing activities being only 2 of them. For example, here's an example of 3 different product life cycles. So when we talk about style, So this is, say, in the clothing industry, when we're marketing a style versus a fashion versus a fad. Styles come and go. The diffusion, the product life cycle, will peak will peak, and then it will wane. But then it will come back. It will peak again. It's not uncommon in a lot of product categories to see these types of resurgence in popularity of a particular item, whereas fashions tend to peak and then slowly decline. Whereas we would define a fad as something that peaks very, very quickly, but then falls off very quickly as well. So as you can see, these are alternate versions of the product life cycle of that diffusion that don't necessarily follow a normal curve. So this is just another way to point out that this the diffusion of innovations is a very broad theory, and we have an impact as marketers over the shape of that innovation curve. So we'll go through each of the stages now. We'll go through these fairly quickly. With the introductory stage of a product, again, this is low profitability, or actually negative profitability, and slow sales increases. This is seen by high failure rates as you're still getting good at manufacturing the product, as you're working out the kinks of the product. Hopefully there's little competition. There hasn't been time for competitors to really respond to your offering. There may be frequent product modification as you work through the high failure rates. There's sometimes a limited distribution. Again, if it is a brand new product, it sometimes takes time to establish distribution partners. Very high marketing and production costs. As I said, one of the important things that you must engage in when marketing new products is very high marketing costs. And if nobody knows about your new product, nobody will buy it. And of course, production hasn't reached the efficiency points that it will later on. All of these things, again, combine to create negative products and slow sales increases, but promotion should focus on awareness and information, simply letting people know that the product exists. And the communication challenge, obviously, is to stimulate primary demand. Make sure people are aware of the product and of what a problem it fills. Moving into the growth stage, we see an increasing rate of sales, but we also see the entrance of competitors, and this can happen fairly quickly, especially the steeper that diffusion curve is. The steeper it is, the more successful it is, more quickly, the more enticing it is for competitors to enter the marketplace. This tends to result in market consolidation. That is, different sectors of the market, different target audiences, will tend to favor one product over the other, and so we start to see brand loyalty take effect here. This will often result in initial healthy profits as sales increase and as targets become more solidified. Our marketing expenditures can actually begin to decrease here, which is what contributes to the healthy process. And the marketing approach, the advertising approach, tends to be in order to differentiate between brands, to do this competitive advertising so that the new competitors in the marketplace don't simply steal all of your sales. It will also usually result in wider distribution, again, as the product becomes more well-known within the marketplace. With the maturity stage, we see sales increase at a decreasing rate, so we're seeing things stale a little bit. Markets are getting saturated. We see annual models appear, so we're trying to continuously refresh the product in order to make it seem like it's always new, it's always fresh, in order to sustain sales. This is also where we will tend to see product lines become lengthened. We'll start to offer new products within the product lines. Again, this is an effort to continue that innovation curve and keep the growth in the positive side. Service and repair are some important roles at this point, because now at this point you have many long-standing customers. Maintaining those customers and as repeat buyers is extremely important. So service and repair will become important aspects to your marketing plan at this point. Heavy promotions to consumers and to dealers. So in the first two stages we really talked about promotions to the consumers. Now we're talking about retailer promotions as well, in order to further strengthen distribution efforts and to become the preferred brands for those dealers, which can get you things like better shelf space, better floor placement, and things of that nature. Many of the marginal competitors will drop out. You may have had many companies enter the marketplace upon seeing your success, and they entered before they were ready. You'll see those start to drop out at this point, and you'll also see niche marketers start to emerge. You'll see companies who have focused on only that product and become better at it even than the initial launcher could. And so you might see some of those types of organizations pop up as well in this marketplace. And then finally, in the decline stage, you see a long-run drop in sales. We see a large inventory of unsold items. At this point, it's probably important to eliminate non-essential marketing expenses. This is the point at which you realize that the market for this product is probably dying. It's probably declining. The sales that have been made have already been made. Maybe the product itself has been replaced by other things. Maybe the problem that you were solving is now more easily solved in other ways. There could be any number of reasons for this decline stage to happen. But it's important to recognize that there are still strategies, marketing strategies, to be made at this point, at this decline stage. This idea of organized abandonment shouldn't be seen as a failure in marketing, but it should be seen as a natural reaction to market dynamics. Once a product has reached this decline stage and it's obvious that there is no recovering from that decline, then it doesn't make any sense to continue pouring resources into that product. You'll simply milk the product as long as you can, and then eventually you'll dump it and move your resources into other products. So when we put these two things together, the diffusion curve as well as the product lifecycle curve, we see some interesting things here, right? We see that in the introduction stage, we're primarily talking to innovators and early adopters, whereas through the growth stages, we're focusing primarily on the early majority and late majority. This has very significant impacts on things like how do we talk about the product, what aspects of the product do we focus on. It has an impact on pricing and distribution strategies. And then further, once we get into the maturity and decline stages, again, strategic decisions are still made here, and as that product life cycle, the sales start to decline, then you know that you've reached all of the people in the marketplace that you can. You're through the laggard stage, and that's when it's time to start thinking about different strategic options. Here are some of those options. And I'm not going to read this whole table to you, but this is a good reference point for you to have. What types of decisions might you make when your product is in the variety of growth stages or of product life cycle stages that we've talked about? So at the introduction, the product strategy would include limited models and frequent changes, versus in the decline stage, your product strategy would include perhaps eliminating unprofitable models. And for pricing strategies, at the introduction stage, it have to be high to recoup development costs. And also at that stage, you know you're attracting early adopters who are less price sensitive. Whereas in the decline stage, when you are at you're attracting laggards into the marketplace, prices will typically stabilize at a fairly low level. Marginal costs at this point are fairly small, so it's easier to become profitable, so prices stabilize down there. And you can see the rest of the strategies there as well, and they're also illuminated in the textbook. So that's about it for Product Management Week 5. Certainly, as always, feel free to contact me if you have any questions about this material or any other. Just from a purely administrative standpoint, let me go over a couple of things schedule-wise. I sent this out in an email earlier, but to be quite honest, I can't access that email since I sent it through Blackboard, and Blackboard is, as of right now, still down. But Week 6 materials are posted already. They'll be up throughout the Thanksgiving break. That is to say that the Week 6 materials in my marketing lab are posted. As soon as Blackboard is back up, I will also be posting the materials for, or the written assignment for Week 6. I'm still waiting for Blackboard to come up to do that. But those materials will be posted throughout Thanksgiving break, but they're still due on the regular time, Sunday night, 12/6. So they're technically not, Week 6 technically does not start until the week after Thanksgiving. So they will be due on December 6th at midnight.
and then week 7 materials will be available the next Monday, and then we'll be back on our regular schedule for week 7. Week 8, as a reminder, we do not have any new material that week, so there are no assignments or quizzes or anything. You're spending that week doing the final exam and finishing and submitting the case project. Dates for those I have changed. Again, this should be consistent with the email that I sent earlier, but if it's not, I apologize. Again, I can't double check what I had said originally, but I believe what it was that the final exam will be open from 5 p.m. Monday the 14th until 5 p.m. Thursday the 17th. I moved that up a couple of days so that I'd have time to grade it before the end of the class. Case submissions are also due 5 p.m. Thursday. If the change in schedule poses an issue to anyone, please contact me right away. Do contact me ahead of time so we can make arrangements. Waiting until very close to the exam, during the exam, or after the exam will reduce the number of options we have available to us, approaching 0. So on office hours, I will be probably hosting some office hours a little bit during the break week. If any of you will be working on material during then, and certainly for the last 2 weeks, I'll try to make sure that I'm available for more virtual office hours through Zoom, or you can certainly contact me to schedule an in-person meeting. So that's about it. Have a great Thanksgiving break. Hopefully you'll hear this before your Thanksgiving break. If not, I hope you had a great Thanksgiving break, and we will see you next time.